A New Hampshire car dealer makes a controversial deal. Buy a car and you could get the same model gun used in the Orlando shooting. And the attack in Orlando has politicians in Maine pushing for stricter gun laws around the nation. Welcome to your weekend morning report, everyone. I'm Katie Boboso. Happy Father's Day weekend to all the dads out there. It looks like it's going to be a good one. Let's start off our final half hour with a look at the forecast with meteorologist Corey Frumkin. Hi, Corey.
Hey there, Katie. Yeah, coming up in those 7-day forecasts in just a few minutes.
Information this morning about possible red flags raised by the Orlando nightclub gunman months before the attack. NBC's Miguel Almaguer has the latest on that and new accounts about what happened that night from survivors inside the club while the massacre was going on.
Oh my God.
Much of the massacre that left 49 dead was captured on multiple cameras. Law enforcement officials say the video likely shows dozens hit by gunfire. This as we learn more about the gunman's wife, Noor Zahi Salman. After the shooting, a source close to Salman says she turned over an iPad, laptops, and cell phones. A family member tells NBC News she was beaten and battered, though she never told investigators she was abused. Salman did not deny her husband was mentally unstable and would snap. Investigators say prior to the shooting, Mateen made more purchases on his credit card, as if he wasn't worried about paying them back, and also transferred his share of a home to his sister for $10, 2.5 months before the shooting. His wife, a witness. The FBI showed Salman pictures of the couple shopping at Walmart, where Mateen bought ammunition, which we now know was not used in the shooting.
I just remember him laughing. And
Miguel Leyva was inside this bathroom as Mateen pumped round after round into his victims. 30 people were trapped inside. 6 made it out alive.
You can hear him like in different rooms just dropping the clips to the guns and putting in a new one and just shooting people again. You know he was shooting at people when you heard the screaming and people begging for their lives.
The heartbreaking memorials for those who didn't survive. Funerals across the region are underway. So much unimaginable grief and so many unanswered questions.
It kind of symbolizes all the good that we did that night, as well as, remind me of the terrible things we had to deal with. But it's a tangible reminder to not forget the good that happened and the patients we took care of and what they're going through, and the unique position we are in to help heal them and to get them back to their family and their lives.
The doctors who helped treat dozens of patients after that shooting in Orlando say the event has changed their lives forever. More than 50 people were injured and 44 of those victims were taken to Orlando Regional Medical Center, most in critical condition. The doctor you just heard from says he bought a new pair of shoes 1 week before the shooting. The night of the attack, those shoes got stained with the blood of one of those patients. The doctor says he won't take them off until the last Pulse shooting survivor leaves the hospital. Orlando's only cemetery is offering free plots and burial services for the 49 people killed at that nightclub. That usually costs around $2,300. So far, 4 families have taken the offer. Families of most of the other victims have chosen to bury them in other states or territories. The cemetery says it's still going to build a memorial for all of the victims. 3 funerals are going to be held there today. The world has raised millions of dollars to support the victims of the Pulse nightclub massacre. But if you do donate, make sure your money is going to the right place. The IRS says scammers are taking advantage of people's generosity. If you want to make a donation, they have some tips. Donate to a charity you recognize. Avoid random links on the internet. Don't give out personal information like your social security number. If an organization asks for it, it's most likely a trap. And do not give or send cash. Make sure there's documentation of the gift. That way you're covered if there's a problem and so you can declare it later for a tax break. If you have any questions about a charity, you can look them up on the IRS website to make sure everything is legitimate. If you buy a car from one New Hampshire dealership, you can get a semi-automatic weapon for free. Hagen's Motor Pool in Rochester is offering a free AR-15 when you buy a new car. That's the same weapon that was used in the Orlando shooting. The owner says this promotion has been going on for months, long before the Pulse nightclub massacre, but many in the area think he should end it in light of what happened. The owner says the promotion is going well and he doesn't have any plans to end it. He says he doesn't want the, quote, the actions of the one lunatic to dictate what he does. He says everyone who gets a gun goes through the background check process. The owner says he sold 10 cars during this promotion. Half turned down the gun. Senator Susan Collins is trying to keep guns out of the hands of suspected terrorists. We talked to her yesterday while she spoke at an adult day center in Biddeford. She says a new bill would not allow anyone who is on a terrorist watch list to buy a gun, but there is a catch. That person can appeal that decision if they are on the list by mistake. She says she hopes the bill will win support from both sides.
From my perspective, if you're too dangerous to get on a plane, you're too dangerous to buy a gun.
Another watch list proposal failed to pass earlier this year, but Collins says her version is a good balance of protecting a person's right to own a gun and keeping people safe. And today is Portland's Pride Parade. And the shooting in Orlando has some people concerned about safety. But police say they're going to make sure people are safe and that today's event is going to get the same level of care as public events in the city. They do still urge the public to be vigilant, like with any large event of this size. The parade today will go through Monument Square, Congress Street, High Street, Park Avenue, and Deering Oaks Park. It starts at noon. Now for a look at some news from around the nation this morning. Singer Christina Grimmie has been laid to rest. Friends and family gathered at her family church in New Jersey yesterday for a memorial service. Grimmie was shot and killed last week after a concert in Orlando. That shooter was tackled by her brother and then took his own life. One of the 9 soldiers who drowned during heavy floods in Fort Hood earlier this month has also been laid to rest. Yesterday, there was a graveside service for Staff Sergeant Miguel Angel Colon Vasquez in Texas. The day before, friends, family, and fellow soldiers paid tribute to him with a service. He was 38 years old and the oldest soldier who was killed when that tactical vehicle was swept away by flood waters on a Fort Hood training range. Disney World is putting up a fence along the beach where a boy was killed after being dragged into the water by an alligator. Crews have already started installing the fence and have released the image of signs that are in the area warning people about alligators and snakes. Disney says it's also training employees for reporting sightings. The resort remains closed. As the country heals from the largest, most recent mass shooting in history, people in South Carolina paused to remember the victims of the massacre that happened there. Yesterday was the 1-year mark since a white supremacist opened fire in Charleston in a church, killing 9 people. NBC's Chris Pallone has the story.
A community which vowed never to forget the victims who were gunned down as they studied the Bible a year later came together, showing the world the Emanuel 9 are not forgotten. In a soaring memorial service, preachers and politicians looked at where we were.
Last year we gathered here in sorrow and pain. Today, 1 year later, we gather in remembrance and hope.
And looked ahead at how we should honor the victims' legacies.
It is our job as a people to prove to them that June 17th was not in vain.
The somber anniversary falling during the same week as the worst gun massacre in the nation's history.
We pause not only to remember the 9, but we would be wrong not to also pause and remember those in Orlando.
Family members this week reliving the horror which changed their lives forever. The confessed shooter, an avowed white supremacist, wanted to start a race war. Instead, he's been confronted with forgiveness.
Each of these family members looking the killer in the eye and said, "I forgive you."
A lesson in grace and kindness the people in Charleston hope lasts forever. Chris Pallone, NBC News.
The accused shooter, Dylan Roof, is scheduled to go on trial in November. The federal government is seeking the death penalty. It is 6:41 here at News Center, and meteorologist Corey Frumkin will have your full look at the forecast after this break.